Right, onto the functional side, right? So armor trimming, including trimming tools and weapons. So we'll start off with the nice and simple. How have I made everything trimmable, right? Because we can take a pickaxe, we can take, what else did I do? I think I did shields. Let's just use the search since it's nice and easier. So everything has been made trimmable. The question is, how simple is it to do? Well, it's actually kind of simple, right? The big hang up is the sprites. So you will have to make the sprites yourself, but we'll quickly go over it. So, sorry, let me leave chat so we've got the background music at the very least. Data pack, right? In here, in the Minecraft section, we have trim material and trim patterns, as well as tags. So under tags, if we look at items, we have trim materials, trim templates, and trimmable armor. Now, trimmable armor is the one that governs what is trimmable. So for instance, if we open it, what you can see is this is the initial trimmable items as per Minecraft, regular Minecraft. And then down here is everything I've added. So all the different tools, and then of course, fishing rods, bows, crossbows, enchanted books, tridents, shields, elytra, and even the dragon head, right? And you can add any item you want to this. And all it does is sort of act as a custom model data, which is actually kind of fantastic because it's now a in-game way for players to add, in a sense, custom model data to any item, to blocks, to consumables, right? All manner of things for you to then check and run whatever function you want. Now, again, the only issue then comes from actually displaying the trim. So if we move over to the resource pack, sorry, let me put it on this side so I'm not covering up some other stuff. If we go to assets, Minecraft, textures, items, we have trim weapons down here. Now, I've had to obviously make sprites and the little masks for the different colorings for every single item I want to trim. So if we go, for instance, pickaxes, we have all the different trims that I've made, right? So yeah, a lot of work to add them in. Again, it's simplistic on the Minecraft side. It's then a little bit harder, or I should say more time consuming, making all the sprites, right? There's no simple way. It's not like the armor trims where you can just make a pattern and then the game will handle all the retexturing and the coloring, right? So this is lapis armor, but title plating. So the title determines the pattern, and then the lapis trim plating is what I say. The lapis trim material has then made it color it blue, right? Minecraft handles that, builds a little atlas that it uses, but you can't do that for items. Items you have to set up yourself, and again, all the game is looking for, and it's all it's tied to, is that trim section. So if we do, sorry, not item, we do data, get entity e type equals item like usual, then just sort equals nearest. I don't think the nearest is necessary, but it's just force of habit, right? So we have down here trim, material, and then pattern. And what this is doing is applying a item. Well, what's the correct term? If we go to materials, right, and we open bone, for instance. So what we have down here is, there you go, item model index. So from testing, you can only do 2 decimal places, and you can go all the way to 1, right? So each of the normal Minecrafts are 1 decimal placement. So 1, 2, 3, sorry, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 0 at 1.0, and you are able to add in numbers, right, to the second decimal placement in between all of those. So if I now go back to the data pack and we go to the actual model side, so not the textures, so models, and then items, and then we look for any tool. So we'll just type in sword. We have an iron sword. As you can see here, we have 0.01, which is now the blaze rod trim. And if we go all the way to 0.1, right, this is the normal Minecraft standard trim, so quartz, but of course I've still had to remake it because weapons and tools aren't normally customizable. But in terms of the armor, it's the exact same sort of platform, but this determines the color palette that they use, right? So you do have to set up the textures, you do have to then set up all the different models, and it is a lot of work, right? Because imagine I've done every single tool, every single variant, and I've had to type this out or add it to every single one of them, and I've added a ton of trims to the game, right, to really expand upon it. But yeah, simple in concept, it's just how much work you want to put in to create how many things. But that aside, onto the actual functions, right? How are we triggering effects? How are we testing that? Again, it's also just like usual, a nice simple system, and I can set up anywhere I want, right? And all we're doing is performing a NBT check off of the player's inventory. So for instance, if we did executes as any entity, or I should say player, right, in this case, right, with the correct NBT, hopefully I can remember this. I think it just starts from inventory. Let me type it out and test. Right, hopefully it's correct. So testing the inventory of the player, then looking at a specific slot, so negative 106 for the offhand. Selected item would be selected item instead of inventory, and then just curly brackets, no squares, and then all the armor slots are 100, 101, 102, and 103, right? But you can test any inventory slot if you want to, create a special item that they have to occupy X slots, right? So we're testing for lapis in the offhand. Oh, I forgot to do a run, say hi, right? Nice and simple. So I stick this in my offhand. It is not correct. So I have messed something up. It's all right. We can look at the command and we can look at this. So we have trim, right? Tag, trim, ... material, which I have spelled correctly. Minecraft lapis. There we go. That's the hang up. So we type in Minecraft and hi, right? Take it off of our offhand. And now I can type and it's not working, right? So this is, again, the simple concept. I'm just detecting where it is in the player's inventory, be it an armor slot or a held or offhand item, right? So if I wanted to test for the helmet, again, we just change that inventory slot from negative to, does it start from feet up? I think it starts from feet up, so it should be 103, right? So if we take off the helmet, it should no longer be working. But if we re-equip the helmet, right, we now know that it has lapis. And again, if you want to the pattern, you can just change material to pattern and then specify whatever the pattern is called. So all the different templates, so tide, sentry, and then if you want both, right, you could just add in material. And you can test for any combination, you can test for one or the other. I like personally testing for the complete set, right? So for instance, in command blocks, I would run each inventory slot and then have the run. So I'd make sure that the full arm set is equipped. But you can do, if this plating and this material is in the head slot, give this effect. And all you have to do is come up with whatever you want off of the run side of things. But we'll go over the actual data pack version because it's a little bit more complex. But yeah, so for instance, we have pattern and then we have lapis. So if I change this to tide, I think tide is all it takes. Take it off, doesn't work, put it back on, right? But it has to be tide and lapis. If I were to trim this with, say, the netherite, it's not going to work now, right? We can type, we can equip it, and nothing happens. But then if we go ahead and trim it back to lapis, it will then trigger. So super simple and highly customizable, just like most of the things in the data pack, which makes me happy. Again, I like setting up things that then, I can really heavily expand upon. So nice, simple concepts to start with, and then go into greater detail. Now, in terms of the data pack, right? So if we go data, functions, the usual, we are going to go to a different section. This time we're going to go to the player, right? And then I do also have a tick player setup as well. And this is where I'm storing their data. So again, how we handled the mob data, I'm doing the same thing for the player. So we're storing all of their information, right, into Runechant roots. And then from that, I'm also storing specific details for me to call upon, right? You don't have to do this. You can just look at the data storage of your roots, right, or your whole amount of information, but I do find it a little bit easier for myself to work with the specific slots. So for instance, we have one for each slot and they're just pulling from that root document. So I don't have to recopy the player's data and cause, unnecessary lag. But we have attributes, food level, active effects, fire, selected item, all the different inventory slots that I'm interested in utilizing, and then the inventory as a whole. And off of that, we can do the exact same concept as what we're doing with the command block. So if I go to attribute bonuses, nope, is that the right one? Yes, slot, right? So we have the material, so amethyst, then it'll give the attributes. And then if they don't have the amethyst trim, it will remove the attribute. So again, super simple. All we're doing is making sure that the player passes that item check. Now the attributes work on a single item basis, so I'm checking each slot independently, but in terms of the complete armor sets, because I want the effects to only work if you have the matching armor set, all we're doing is then making sure that they have all 4 pieces equipped. So we're checking each of those slots. So 100, 101, 102, and 103. And if everything is matching, so they have the right pattern, then we will trigger the effect. In terms of the weapon, it's the same thing. I'm just checking if it's on the main hand, if it's on the offhand, and then performing a few other checks, right, depending on the activation I want. So if we go to weapon skills, we might as well go for it now, and then we go to weapon triggers. I have a few different ones, and these are mostly just using the custom inbuilt scoreboards, so you can track the statistics, right, when a player blocks, when a player deals damage, when a player takes damage, etc., when they sprint, sneak, and that's all I'm doing. So for instance, we have is block, so whenever the player blocks and that internal scoreboard is updated, right? It goes to 1, it then performs this luck check. Now, I use an old system for RNG. The new roll function is significantly better, but I made this before that came out. So work with roll, and I won't bother explaining how I do RNG. I did just find it online, right? Mostly. I did tweak some of the values myself. But yeah, the new roll command is significantly better, right? You can just generate a number between X ranges, and Minecraft handles all of the math, so you don't have to do anything about that. But basically, if we get both passing their test, so the player blocks, and then their luck is greater than the RNG roll, they will perform the skill or the action, the block, right? The trigger. And then that filters out further. So if we go to block, again, all we're doing is checking that the item in either the selected item or that offhand slot has the correct material pattern in this case, right? We're looking for both. But if we go to attack, we should have the normal trims. So coast, so as long as they have that pattern coast, dune, host, shaper, it will trigger the effects. Again, super simple. All you have to do is check the player's NBT, either using data storage, how we've minorly gone over. I'm sure there's some greater tutorials online about that, right? Or just if you're using command blocks, again, just run this. Just perform this check, just perform an inventory check. Or again, if you want to check the selected item, just selected item, right? And get rid of the square brackets and make sure you don't forget the E's. So selected item has to be tide and lapis, which I assume our weapon is square brackets. Is it tide? No, it's sentinel, right? But if we change that to sentry, which is the correct version, we should get the highs again. Oh, we don't. Oh, okay. You don't need the slot, obviously. So it's just selected item tag, right? So yeah, again, inventory, square brackets, curly, selected item, just curly brackets, tag, trim, and then whether or not you're looking for the pattern or the material. Super simple. And then whatever you want to come up with for the run function. Right, so that'll do. Nice, easy one to explain. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.